let's get cracking. Remember that expression? Let's get cracking, like cracking the whip. Crack. Let's get crapping. Cracking. That's a Freudian slip. Let's start. Let's get cracking. We did that a week or two ago. Remember? No one remembers? Okay. Do you want your money back? All right, let's get cracking. I'll write it up. Maybe I look at the other group, I don't know. It means let's get started. Cracking, like crack a whip, so very active. Crack, 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 so let's get active. But in English, did we do this then? We can crack, what sort of things can we crack?
Walnuts.
True. So we can crack nuts. So that's physical. We can crack our head on something. Oh my God, crack. We don't literally do it, but I cracked my head on the door. You don't really crack a leg or an arm. You crack your head because I guess it's like a nut. We call that your nut. Don't confuse it because for men, nuts. All right? Plural, singular. Get it? Yeah. So, I hurt my nuts, a guy might say. But, I hurt my nut head. So, just that's different. Now, I'm thinking more this is literal. Now, let's get it clear. This is literal, meaning real. So, in language, we talk about literal meaning. Hey, Lewis, how are you, mate? Long time no see.
Yeah, fine.
Okay, great. And I've got some writing for you. Let me remind me. All right, so I'll use this term quite a lot. Literal means real, the literal meaning of something. The physical, so physical. So they're literal. The opposite, and the reason we mainly focus on this stuff, metaphorical. We've talked a lot about metaphor. Yeah, it's like symbolic, isn't it? Poetic equivalence. So I'm thinking of this more in the metaphorical sense. In English, we can crack a joke. That's one of the easiest ones. You crack a joke. Why crack? Because the last line of a joke. Yeah, we call it the punch line. It's like a punch, the punch line. So we crack, so my little dittos, these things are called dittos. We can use this symbol for a lot of things, can't we? We can use it for quotations. But when you have a list and you put it means the same thing again without writing this out. And that is called ditto. We can use it in speech. Somebody says, oh, God, I had a crappy day. I had a bad day. Oh, ditto. What do you think it means? Me too. So did I. Yeah. So ditto. So I'm just going to use dittos here. So crack, cracker, crack a joke. What else can we crack? This is slang, by the way. SL. Slang. When I write SL, it means slang. Don't write it. Cracker. What's a sickie? You're sick? Are you really sick? No, but you tell your boss you're sick. That's a sickie. All right, so you ring up, I've got coronavirus. Yeah. And you have 3 weeks off, right? But you don't have it, right? You go surfing or fishing or hiking in the mountains, whatever you want to do. That's a sickie. you heard that expression? No? Okay. Now, it's very Australian because we do this. When you see slang with IE, you know, oh, catch that mozzie. You know, what are you going to get for Chrissy? So mosquito. What are you going to get for Chrissy, Christmas, etc., etc. Lots of these. Lots and lots. It's an Australian form. The British do it a little bit. Americans not so much. So if you hear a bit of slang and you think it's slang, it's got E on the end, it's probably some Australian form. So if it's Australian, then you go and get your Australian dictionary, don't you? You don't go and get an American dictionary, you won't find it. Go and get that, the Dinkum Dictionary, it's Australian slang. Alright, so it will definitely have that thing in it, absolutely. Here's another one. As far as I know, this is only Australian. And do you spell it with an IE or a Y? I don't know, because it's slang, it's not written down very much, is it? So you don't see it very much, you just hear it. So the spelling is debated, or I'm going to put a Y. You could put an IE, make it like that one. That one's definitely an IE, I've seen that before. You crack a fruity. When my boss found out that it was a sickie and I wasn't really sick, she cracked a fruity. How did she react? What? Angry. You're fired. Right? She cracked a fruity. Exactly. She's angry. Why fruity? Don't know. Just very rich, lots of different fruit. Like, so, you know, she said a lot. It was very full, angry of emotion. I don't know what. You crack a... And again, I don't know how to spell this one. I'm going to write it like this. Driving along, come to roadworks, long line of cars, going to take you half an hour. Oh my God. The person says next to you, oh my God, just crack a Yui. What do you think it means? Crack a Yui and get out of here. You're down at South Road, you know, Flinders University. Oh my God, what a mess. You know? Yeah, exactly, Lewis. What is it?
U-turn?
Hey, that's it, a U-turn. Crack a Yui. Yeah. Etc. There are some of the common ones. But if so, can you see the point? If you hear crack, notice all of these things pretty much are kind of quick and instant, aren't they? You know? So it's sort of, it's capturing that instantaneous, quick response to something.
Can we say crack a problem?
You can. You can. That's not really slang, but you can. And often, it's interesting, Joan, because I don't hear people say crack a problem so much as just they'll say the word this. I don't know how to crack this. And they're referring to a problem, but they don't actually say the word problem.
I have to crack this.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really thinking how to crack this. How to crack this problem. Maybe you tend to say it with a this in it. I don't know how to crack this problem. Yeah, and that is like cracking a nut, isn't it? The metaphor. You know, it's closed and I can't see the answer. Crack it. Ah, there's the solution. So, yeah. Yep, true. What we could do, let's do it. I've done it. Let's see what happens. Where do we look to see what words go with that word? What resource can we use now on the internet? We've talked about it a fair bit in class. Some people are new, might not have seen it. Just
the word.
Just the word, right. Let's go and have a look. Um, just the word. So if you haven't seen this before, write that down. Just the word. And this, it looks for collocations. We are going to do collocations later today, quite a bit. Collocations, word packages, or the word cluster, So, clusters. So, a cluster, a very nice example actually, because that's absolutely a cluster. There's a cluster of pens. It's a group. It's a group of pens, and it's usually sticks and vertical sort of things like that. You don't have a cluster of marbles. I guess you could, but it's rare. It's usually things that are straight like that, like a cluster of sticks or pencils or pens. That's a cluster. You can have a cluster of people. We're a cluster of people. Perhaps because we're kind of vertical, most of us. I guess if you get a bit fat, you're no longer vertical. So I'm going to talk about clusters. So, crack a joke. It's a cluster, isn't it? It's a package. Crack a sickie. That's a package. So, language, your native language, my native language, every human language works with lots of collocations. It depends on the speaker and the writer, anywhere between 30% to 70 to 80%, 90 even, is made up of these packages with a bit of grammar in between. If you learn the packages, you think less about grammar. Yeah, of course, because if you're thinking grammatically about the connection between every word, that's a lot of brain work, isn't it? But if you know these packages and maybe a couple of little grammar words in between, much easier job. That is how you learn your native language, and that's why one of the reasons you're so fluent and it's so easy, because you know these packages. And you knew them and you started hearing them when you were one year old, and you didn't think it when you were 3, oh, there's a second conditional, I must put the past tense. You know, it's just the packages, isn't it? And the regularity of the packages. So, if you learnt your first language this way, using this tool, then it's an essential tool in the toolbox for your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth language. Absolutely, and it is not stressed enough by language teachers, but that's how language works. So we're going to talk about it quite a lot, and we're going to talk about it more again today. But even right now, crack, let's do it. So we want to find out what packages commonly go with the word crack. We just put it in there. There you go. Let's make it a bit bigger for those in video land. So that's the one I said, wasn't it? Crack your head. That's the one Jan said. She beat me, look, 15. So this goes and searches a database of 100 million words. The British National Corpus, it's British. Linguists went around with microphones, recorded coffee conversations, work discussions, kids in kindergarten, people kicking around the football, everything. Academic lectures and writing, got newspapers, academic reports, magazines, Facebook comments. Actually, not Facebook. It was done in the late 90s, so that's interesting. It doesn't have social media. So
No mistakes. No mistakes.
It will have mistakes. Yes, it does have mistakes. Because, interesting point, Lewis. They recorded everybody, and that includes non-native speakers. And then there are some websites where you can say, what are the common errors that this group made? And you can see the patterns. And it's quite interesting and quite useful, and people use it to make grammar books for non-natives and so on. Yeah. So there's lots you can do with this thing. It's a good point. So there are mistakes, but they guess they wouldn't really show up here because they would be overwhelmed by the native speakers. When we're looking just at statistics, those mistakes would be statistically so low, they wouldn't be shown as collocations. Yeah, because all collocations are, it's just frequency, isn't it? What are the frequent word packages? What are the frequent word clusters? That's what collocations are. The infrequent ones, not collocations. So yeah, that's an interesting point. We crack a code. That's a bit like a problem, isn't it? Oh, here's this secret code. What does it mean? And absolutely, you crack that. Now you can see the number next to it, and also this. I tend to just look quickly. This is the most common one, and that's the one I started with. Literally, crack a whip. I didn't write it down, but I was talking about it. So crack a whip, but there's crack a joke. Pretty common. Crack jokes, crack the egg. We talked about most of those, just not that one, which was more like yours, John, the problem now. Crack down, crack up. There are your phrasal verbs. Crack down, crack up, crack against, crack cocaine, okay, drugs. I'm just looking for, that's interesting. Right, so there are your prepositions. You've got through a crack, in a crack. That's physical. Another crack. That's interesting. That's probably another. So another crack, that's a noun. So it's not working like that's a verb, isn't it? So you have to think, you have to look at this grammatically. Have a crack at ST something, have a go, we say in English, in Australia, or have a try. Aussies say this a lot, oh, have a go at it. Have a go, have a try at, get your preposition at something. See the at? So you have a crack at. That's the collocation, that's the package. Make sure you get your preposition in there. That's important with collocations. They are packages. And I'll do square brackets like that to show the package. Make sure you... This is a good way of learning prepositions. The preposition is just in there, and you don't have to grammatically analyse it. It's just that package all the time. That's one tool in the toolbox to learn prepositions. There are others. So yeah, have a crack at. So have another crack, have another go. Or it could be, oh my God, you're in your house and oh, there's another crack. It could be literal. Which is it? Let's have a look. All you do is there are 18 examples. Click on it. Move it over. Interesting. Okay. This is about is it about cracks in buildings or is it about trying again? You don't need to look at the whole sentence. It's a bit cultural. Here's an example. It's a nice example. Several examples. But where you need to know cultural stuff in order to understand the use of this. So remember, I have said over and over again, you need to develop cultural knowledge to get the last bit, the refinements of a language. So, have another crack at the ashes. What are the ashes? Literally, where are we? Did I rub it off? No, literal. What are ashes? Ash. Yeah. You burn, you have a fire, the stuff that's left. Yep, cenizas. Yep, ash. Right, so what does that mean? It's got a capital. Okay, this is cricket. I know almost nothing about cricket, but this is one of those kindergarten cricket things, like, in cricket kindergarten, one of the most basic things. The ashes are the ashes of a bat, so the wooden bat, some famous bat in the 1930s, I think, in England. They burnt it and made the ashes. And then every year, India, Pakistan, England, Australia, etc., they compete internationally to get this cup with the ashes in it. It's the highest prize in cricket. So, cultural knowledge, isn't it? Not just English, it's sort of international. So you have another crack at the ashes. What are they doing?
They going to the race again, championship.
Yeah, they're going to try again, aren't they? They didn't get it last time. They're going to have another go, have another try. So we've got two of those. Have a crack at the champion, like the same sort of thing. We don't know what sport. We'd have to look at the whole thing. Have a crack at the elusive Wimbledon title. Cultural knowledge. What sport is that, Marty? You're doing it? Do it again. Nice backhand. Right. Beautiful. You beat Federer with that one, I reckon. Yeah. So tennis, isn't it? Title, the top title. Elusive. You can't catch it. Something eludes you, it runs away. You don't need to know every word. You know, if you didn't know that, you could still get it, couldn't you? So it's good to get in there and have a look at it. Another crack, this is a simple one, another crack at running the country. This is an interesting one. Have another crack at him on Saturday. Another crack at a person, attack, different meaning. So getting into the examples, you can see it's that next level of detail, isn't it? And it's going to show you things like crack at. Look at that. Look at that pattern. So consistent. And that means you need to know and need to include. You now know you need to include the at. Can you see? So this website will help you a lot with these packages and prepositions in the package. Really, really gold resource. All right, so we haven't started the lesson yet. This is just a bit of conversation. But yeah, I said, let's get cracking, let's get started. We still haven't got started. Right? All right, so let's get really cracking. And we'll do spelling. The nightmare that is English spelling. Sorry, it's a blank. You can have that one, Marty, if you like. You know it all. No, English spelling can give you nightmares, absolutely. And then you wake up at 3:30 in the morning and think, oh my God, I was trying to spell accommodation in my dream. And I couldn't do it. Hey, come in. Just in time, good eye. I'm just starting out spelling this. And then you lie there until 6 o'clock in the morning thinking, how do you spell accommodation? Right? Has it got a double C or a double O or a double M or a double T or... Yeah. Have you done that? No. It's not that bad, is it? And in fact, English spelling is about 80% regular. So the first thing you need to know are some rules. And you probably learnt a lot of those, and we're not going to go through too many of those. At this level, I'm going to assume you got control of a lot of that 80%, and I'll mention it where I need to, some of those rules. But if you don't know them, you know, and you feel it's a good thing to go and review the rules of spelling. Just Google that and you'll get lots of it. And that will help you with about 80%. Yeah, regular. So we're talking about spelling. But 20%, tricky, not regular. Now, the question is, it helps a little bit. So what we're going to do is very practical stuff, 5 main strategies to help you with spelling. I think spelling, there's not one strategy. Don't just use one. You've got to have a toolbox. And we're going to put 5 tools in that toolbox, through the lesson. And you will use 1 or 2 of those at a time, maybe 3. And it's going to change depending on what the problem is and what your problem is. Because your problem with that word might be different from somebody else's problem with that word. Right? Because it's not, you don't have a problem with the whole word, you have a problem with a part of the word. If we say, oh, I can't spell accommodation, you can spell most of it, 80 or 90%. It's that 5 or 10, 20% you can't, isn't it? And that's an important psychological point because most of it you've got. But the other psychological thing is it means you don't focus on the whole word, focus on the problem bit. That's where you put your energy. And it's like a magnifying glass, If you focus it, you burn the hole in the paper. If you don't focus it, you can try, and it's really not very effective, So focus your psychological energy and your concentration on the problem bit. I'll show you how to do that later. I think it's like anything. It's good to know, and we've talked a little bit about the history of English, the French invasion and the Latin and the German and stuff like that, because it does have implications for today and how you work with the language. So it's like anything. A bit of history is important. Same with spelling. Why is English spelling so irregular? 20% is a fair bit, more than most languages. And there are a number of reasons. And sometimes, knowing that, and I've posted a nice little summary of those historical reasons to the Facebook website. It's worth reading it. It's longer than what I'm going to say, but I'll talk about some of the main reasons. One of them is they brought the Romans, we use a Roman alphabet, don't we? The Romans created that, and it was great for Latin, fine. But get to England, and people going, that sound, there's no letter that shows that, for example. So what do the Romans do? Oh, we'll get a T and an H. Sort of a bit like a T, tongues in sort of that sort of place. And then a H. It kind of, mix that together. T, H. Yeah? But it doesn't. And then there's F and 2 different sounds. And the Romans say, oh, we'll just use the same symbol. T and H. Yeah? So it doesn't quite work, a lot of it doesn't fit. So that's one reason. So there's why irregular. So 1, Roman alphabet. So it's a foreign alphabet imposed on another language. That happens a lot around the world, and we still have more regularity in many languages other than that. So it's not the only reason, but it contributes. Okay, another reason is the French invasion, the famous French invasion in 1066. And basically we mix Germanic and Latin languages. Yeah, we have the Old English that's spoken by the Anglo-Saxons, and then the French come in and bring Latin words. So over the next 2 or 3 centuries, it mixes. You've got this soup, and the French ruling class still want to spell. They want to use French spelling on the Old English, So it gets mixed that way, which we've talked about before. 3, Caxton, he's a printer. He brings the first printer to London in the late 1400s. So Gutenberg invents the printing in 1450s or so in Germany, movable type. builds this machine and prints the Bible. The Bible was always printed first everywhere. Caxton brings this machine or a copy of it to London, knows he can make a lot of money, prints the Bible, but where do they get printers? This machine doesn't exist. Previously hasn't existed in England. So he brings over Germanic printers, mainly Dutch. So the Dutch hear the language, and so the Dutch, for example, night, right, they use this g quite a lot. The Dutch, you can hear g in Dutch language a lot. So when they think, oh yeah, Reicht, that's how they say it. It's like an accent. They lay out type in their own accent. And also, in the past, earlier on, we did say in English, Nacht, Reicht, because we're Germanic. Yeah? So that gets put into the type. Once it's in the type, it's kind of stuck there, isn't it? Somebody else, another printer sees it and says, oh, that's how you say night. That's how you spell night. So I'll spell it that way. So the other problem was when he got English printers, and they came from the north, from Gloucestershire or Cornwall in the west or whatever, they had their own dialect. And they had a different way of pronouncing egg or night or right. So they laid out the type the way they heard it in their regional language. And you had this mix of north, south, east and west, and everybody doing this pattern, different patterns, yeah, and then that got copied. Another one, the Great Vowel Shift, it's called. In the sort of 1400s, the English vowels all shifted to the front, more to the front of the mouth. So the old way of writing things, people had written stuff before that, and then the sound shifts, but the writing stays. Writing is much more permanent, isn't it? It changes more slowly than speech. So basically what you had is, you had English, you had writing, and then you had the sound of the language doing that. So / speaking. And especially for vowels. So you've got this gap. And that gap is with us today. And there are more, but I'm just doing the big ones. And all of these, I'm putting up the ones that will give you some practical reason. Like, oh, that vowel, maybe you're working with a word and the vowel doesn't sound like that vowel. Well, it's probably due to that problem, right? And and etc. is due to that problem. It may help you analyse. And even if you're historically wrong, doesn't matter. You're getting some tools to look at the problem and think, oh, it might be due to that. Therefore, I need to think just about vowels or whatever. I'll demonstrate this later. This one is very good for this sort of thing. Okay, so the English build a navy in the 1500s, 1600s, and it's the navy that is the core and the backbone of the British imperialism. It develops capitalism, and it has to expand and get more markets and resources. So it conquers a lot of the world. England invades every country in the world except 22. Right? Whose country was not invaded, even for a few months, by the British? Somebody's country was not invaded by the British. Anybody here? Lewis, what's yours? Colombia, possibly. A lot of Latin America wasn't it? Chile, for example. etc. But yeah, all right. Colombia, yeah. Anybody else?
I don't know about Iran.
No. Iran, well, it certainly had strong British influence, didn't it? I think, weren't troops there? British troops were in Iran? I think so, but I'm not sure. Certainly very strong British imperialism controlling oil and stuff like that. Yeah. But anyway, check it out. If you type it up, Google, ask Dr. Google, British invasion, 22 countries, you'll get the list. All right, now the point of that is that if England is there for a long time, over time it collects certain words, doesn't it? And brings them back. Like it brings back all the money and the labour and the resources, it brings back language. So we have kowtow from China, from coal, head, and tao, I don't know, so, oh, yes, sir, right? You know, oh, sorry, sir, sorry, to the boss. You know, and it's really undignified. You lose your dignity and you sort of beg. Kowtowing, Chinese. So it's from coal, head, and it's like, I don't know, do you know the
Wow.
coal toll? Right. What's the toll bit mean? Eh? Oh, sorry, toll is head, yeah, and coal is what?
Coal actually should bound your body until your head touches the floor.
Till the head touches the floor, right? Okay, so there it is. That's what it's from, and of course it mutates and changes, and we don't say it correctly. Just it, right. So the way we spell that in English is that, whereas you would do that. Is that right? Hmm?
Yes.
I think your opinion, would that be your opinion for that? Whole top? Yeah. Yeah. So we do that. So it's not quite the same, but the point is, like this one, veranda, sorry. Veranda with the H, you know, it's silent H. Where does that come from? That comes from India, and possibly in Hindi, the symbol has got an H on the end. I don't know. Point is, we absorb that, and we keep that spelling. Here's another one. It's a good, easy, it's a modern example. Cappuccino. Now, you know, that looks like cappuccino, doesn't it? But why is that a ch? Because in Italian, a C and an I makes a ch sound. So that's the Italian rule. So do you see the point? We start drinking cappuccinos, and we just take the Italian word, and it's got that spelling in it, and we hear the pronunciation. So that is irregular, isn't it? Doesn't fit our pattern. And we don't put an H in it because we see it we see the Italian word so much. You know, the people in Italy who brought it back. So it stays like that. That's an example, a good example. A lot of Italian examples of foods and things do this. But there are many, many, many such words. And so we're collecting the spelling rules of all these different languages and putting them into English. Now, some of them we change like this. That one is a change, and that's kind of regular. Cow, tau, that's regularised. That would belong here. But a lot of them we don't, and it contributes to that. See the point? So those, I think they're the 5. If you want to read more history, you know, and understand it a bit more, I've posted the link of one. There are many, many explanations, but those are your top 5. And they can help you understand. They can help you remember as well. So that little story about veranda, for example, comes from India. You probably won't forget that now, and you'll remember the H on the end. You know. All right. So to practice, and we may refer to some of this, and we won't look at the 5 strategies yet. We want to just look at your knowledge at this point. All right. So what you've got here, spelling, some tricky spelling. I posted a link this morning of about 100 words that are commonly misspelled. So that link is in the Facebook site. Now, out of those, I looked through the list and thought, which ones are the most common that I see students at your level making these mistakes? So this is a collection of the best, or the worst of the worst, if you like to think of it that way. So they're quite tricky. What I want you to do is, collocation, put your heads together at each table and figure them out. So let's do that first one. Accommodation is top of the list. Now it says correct the error if there is one. I'm making it a little bit harder for you because I felt cruel last night. I was in a bad mood. All right, so I want to inflict a bit of pain and suffering on you. So, accommodation. Is it correct? Could be. Is it not correct? Double M, double D. Right, you're on the right track. Good. It's a double problem, isn't it? Is it a double C? I've put a double C. Maybe it's only one. No? What do people feel? What do your bones say? Double, Merida. M, double M, right. Double M. Good. So that one's got a double M. Accommodation. You've got a double C and a double M. It's got two doubles. That's why it's tricky. There are not many words with two doubles. But there are some others in here, just a clue. There are some others in here that have doubles. All right, I'm going to hand it over to you for probably 15 minutes or so. In your group, I want you to get together and have your best guess. No checking dictionaries, of course. Dr. Google, leave Dr. Google at the door. All right, try your best by yourselves, and then we'll review them. Go for it. Those in video land, you will find the Word documents that we're working on the website.
Calendar should be AR, is it? Calendar.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, calendar. AR.
Cemetery.
A between U and S.
Cemetery.
I'm not sure about this word.
Cemetery.
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 Or maybe without A. I'm not sure.
Maybe WM, no?
Cemetery.
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 I'm not sure.
Okay, we just say
A.
no A.
The
Cemetery.
A and the double M. Or
Double M.
Cemetery.
Cemetery.
Is the sun is same in the same tree?
O-I-E.
Yeah, no? Cemetery.
Probably
No,
no.
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 I remember the last word is
It's
R-Y.
R-Y, yeah.
but I'm not sure.
Cemetery.
With or without A.
Okay, without the A.
Yeah.
College.
Not sure. College.
Now that word is not college.
Oh, no.
Colleague.
Oh, colleague.
Yeah, colleague. So the person at work, you know, who you work with, a colleague. Colleague. Stretch out the E. Colleague. Colleague.
C-O-L-L-E-A-G-U-E.
Colleague.
I'm not sure.
Colleague.
Committee.
Committee. Only one E. One E, isn't it?
Cemetery.
No A.
Committee.
What do you think it is?
No A or change A to O. I think
Conscious.
You're on the right track.
Conscious.
So it's something else, isn't it? Cemetery.
C-O-N-C-I-O-U-S. SCIOUS.
Conscious.
CON
What is the
CONS.
what is the meaning?
S missing.
Oh,
S.
cesarean. So,
Ah,
yeah, graveyard. Graveyard.
oh that conscious CIOUS
cemetery.
definitely
M.
definitely
Between E and
definitely
Now be careful because in English, cemetery. Here in English, cemetery. No, it's not. It's lost.
yeah that's right.
Yeah.
No
This
right.
is what I remember. I'm not sure it's correct or not. Definitely.
Yeah, and that's the origin of the word.
Definitely.
And
But
so
then
you're
it's a
closest
one
to the
word
origin.
is a definitely, isn't it?
We can
Yeah.
drop that in.
Definitely.
That is not there. It's something else. You're on the right track.
I'm not sure about this one.
Yeah,
This
that's
one.
right.
Very.
But that's the matter with the A, isn't it? That's why we make a mistake.
So confusing.
Another vowel.
Oh, this is a double A
Good,
somewhere.
it's one of those.
Embarrassing.
Write
Embarrassing.
those two out.
Oh, ES.
Embarrassing.
Oh, I'm not sure. Embarrassed.
Right. No. Embarrassed. That's a ha. Embarrassed.
Embarrassed.
Which one? Embarrassed. Yeah, that is a tricky one.
Embarrassed.
Embarrassed.
Embarrassing. 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 Is correct?
No.
An A? Oh no, between.
I'm not sure.
Double R.
I don't know. Double R.
My head is crazy now. It's like trying to find the answer.
Okay, double R. Familiar is FAN. Yeah. It's I.
Yeah. I'm missing.
Yeah, I missing. And harassment. Or maybe only one
Double R.
harassment, but only one S. Only one S.
Yes.
Or
Let's put
only
that
one
way.
S.
Independent.
Instead of A, might be E.
Should be E. Replace A.
This one E, isn't it?
Because for me,
This one.
Spanish.
Knowledge.
How do you say?
It's not a thing.
Otherwise, it looks alright, isn't it? And this is knowledge.
LEDG.
DG.
I don't know this word.
License?
Yes.
Do you know this word?
No. Lies? I don't know. Necessary? Necessary.
There is E missing. Noticeable.
Noticeable.
No, not that. Piece of something. Piece of something.
And this is R missing. Occurrence. This occurrence. Should we have a double R? No. Occurrence. Double R.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe double R, isn't it?
Occurrence.
Occurrence. Persistent.
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 Yeah, indeed.
Persistent.
E or A? Persistent. Persistent.
You are saying there is a TENT?
It's very hard to.
I'm not sure.
Persistent.
Mm.
PENT.
A lot of reading will help because you just see the word over and over, and even unconsciously it goes.
Peace.
Yeah, sometimes you have to close your eyes and just write
P-I-E-C-E.
Indeed.
Instead of
That
trying to
is
find
Properly.
it.
exactly.
Properly.
It's good to play around with a scrap piece of paper and try several different ways, and then which one works.
Publicly.
Eh? Properly.
True, and it
Properly.
You have grammar.
Properly.
Without A?
Yeah, I don't think it has an A.
even then,
Properly.
there can be a problem. can't there?
Properly.
Some English words.
Double L or one
you
L?
might
One
type
A, L
One
one.
L.
Isn't
the
it?
grammar
Properly
doesn't
click
because of things.
and receive.
Oh, that's an English word, but it's the wrong, like right and right, or two and two.
R-E-C-E-I-V. Receive.
Like receive.
T-double-O.
And
Grammarly won't
refer.
doesn't recognise it as T-double-O. Yeah, that's
Double L. Double
So that-
R.
that can happen.
Double R. Refer.
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 Double R. We always use it, but refer.
Bird.
Doesn't have a the.
No, referred. Referral with two R. So I think referred with two R.
Ah.
I-E-F-F-E-R-A-L. That's the noun.
F-E-R-R. Oh, double R. Okay.
Resistance.
Resistance. Is a
Is a A? A.
yeah. Resistance. Separate.
Separate. I'm not sure this one. I think it's correct.
Eh? No. Separate. Could say it's the same, isn't it? Separate.
Separate.
Is it correct?
I'm not sure. I think it's correct. This one.
Correct.
Correct.
Beautiful. Very good.
Correct. So John is a correct.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, some is correct.
Maybe this one.
Maybe this one is
Correct.
correct.
Correct. The last
Tendency.
Tendency.
E-N-C-Y.
D-E-N-C-Y.
Tendency. T-E-N-D-E-N-C-Y.
That's a nice
Truly.
little
Truly is
Without the E.
Instead of iPad Air, is it? Ah, iPad.
no,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Truly.
Where?
I think without
Do
the E,
that.
how do you say?
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Without the should be like that. That's correct.
Yeah.
True.
And
Truly.
that pen comes with it. It's a particular pen, is it?
Truly.
I
Truly.
Yeah, I didn't use it, but I think I have to use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Good idea.
You can try. Village?
I think it's the same.
So the pen is an apple. It's an apple
Yeah,
pen.
Apple Pen. It doesn't come with this app.
No.
You can buy it separately.
Separate.
Yeah.
Truly.
And different color, different mark.
Current.
Colours.
Colors.
Plural.
Separate.
In more and small.
What do you
Indeed.
think?
Yeah,
Truly
true.
is correct
True.
or
I think it's very good.
Less
truly?
paper.
Is this word notice?
What about this one?
Noticeable.
It's without E.
Truly. Yeah.
Not noticeable.
Without E.
Notice.
Without E. You are right. You are right. Truly.
That was a noticeable error.
Truly.
Notice.
Weird.
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 Yeah. W-I-R-E-D.
All right, here are your
Weird.
teams. A at the front, B, C. Yay. And you have got these words. So A, you've got from accommodation down to definitely. All right, can you write up the correct form? B's, you've got embarrass
Is it correct?
to persistent.
I don't
C,
correct, but I don't know the correct
you've got
one.
piece, a piece of cake, down to weird, the last. All right. Focus on those, have a chat, get them right, as correct as possible, come up and write them up.
How about Canada? A-R. A-R. Yeah. Canada. Cemetery. Maybe double M. Cemetery. 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 Double M.
Yeah.
Double N.
Double M.
M.
Cemetery. If a, and here should be cemetery, so it should be have an AR, isn't it? If a double M,
It's not a mistake. It's that word is liaise. You know the word liaise? To connect with other people for the purpose of a project. So one company will liaise, cooperate, create a relationship and cooperate
say
with each other on some building project.
man,
Liaise. It's a French word.
where is the A? Oh, the A.
And liaison.
Liaison. No, that one I don't know.
I'm not sure about this one. Cemetery.
If you haven't heard the word, it's a bit obviously hard to figure out the spelling. Just have a wild guess, a crazy guess, and put it up. Don't worry too much about it.
Cemetery. Conscious. They naturally.
Let's see.
Definitely.
Which one do you prefer? We can put
Someone, yes. Independent, yes. Knowledge, harassment.
song.
Different
Okay, so A's and C's, I think you'll squeeze in there. Come up and write. Certainly A, if you're right-handed, you will fit up there. All right, send up a right-hander. Squeeze in there and right. Go for it. Yeah. Best guesses. They're only guesses. We're not. I guess we could introduce a $50 fine, couldn't we? If it's wrong, make a bit more money. But no, there's no fine for getting it wrong. So up you go and go for it.
Definitely.
Have a crack at it.
Probably this one is doesn't need to change.
Have a crack. Have a
Okay,
go.
we just said.
Hat.
But this one is
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
yeah. I think this one is right. C.
Committee. How about committee? COMMITTE.
I think is yeah. Definitely. Maybe this one is correct. Definitely. Me?
Belongs to friend.
Yes. It's like trend. There's a tendency. So English has a tendency to regular spelling, so 80%, but 20% not. So there's a tendency, for example, for people to.
Came here quite often. Last term.
There's a tendency amongst conservatives to blame environment.
Because
Social
is
tendency.
a bit higher level.
There's a tendency for young people
But I
to
still
use
try
the
because
iPhone too
John
much.
gave us
Yeah.
allow for the resources we can study at home.
Friend.
Use
Okay,
our
there's a
own
tendency for
because
people learning
like
English to
before,
blame themselves for
she mentioned
their
about
errors.
we
But
can
it's really,
we can
sometimes
check
it's the other
all the
person.
word. We don't know just the word. Use
So it's
Google.
like a trend,
Just
isn't it?
the word.
It's like not neutral but like a bias.
I've been here.
So some of the words are correct, not many. Most are wrong.
I haven't been
There's
in
a
this
strong
class
tendency
for half
for most of the words to be incorrect,
half
like about 97%.
For half.
There's one.
Oh,
That's
probably
correct.
for there's four,
Okay, C.
4 terms
Come up.
for
Have your best guess.
it's like the
Alright.
school term. Like when there's a school start, the Jones class. I already been here. I think it's 4 times or
Alright, we
more
need
than
to scribe.
4 times.
Here we go. Here's how you do it in English. Ready?
Other
Eeny,
times
meeny,
it's
miny,
10
mo.
class.
Catch the
So I
tiger by
probably
the
it's
toe.
already
If
been
he
here.
hollers, let him go.
30
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
No, you know the answer. Oh.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Helen, how do you do that one in Mandarin?
But I was not.
I don't know. Mandarin is not my first language.
Okay. Oh, isn't it? Oh, sorry. What's your first language?
Cantonese.
Oh, sorry. Okay. How do you do it in Cantonese?
點指兵兵點着誰人做大兵
Aha. Okay. I was wondering if it had the same rhyme to it. How do you do it in Persian? Kids, deciding who
I
will,
don't think it's correct. This one.
who like
They're
in
weird.
Chasey. chasing each other. Who will be he? The person. Have you?
Yeah,
Right.
but one is
One
related
E,
to numbers.
maybe,
Yeah,
I think.
these
And the
things are
colleague COLEAGUE.
Yeah,
Exactly.
COLEAGUE.
So it's still not the same.
It's
Not the same patterns.
Yeah.
Double two and the one E.
When kids have
Yeah,
to
that's, I
decide
think, it's a
who
should
is
be-
going to
it's
be
a
first, no one wants
T
to do
and
it,
one E.
right? Maybe who, in the game of what we call chasing,
Definitely.
who is going to be the first chaser, for example, in a game or a sport, yeah?
It's a correct.
So in Portuguese,
Definitely.
Double two, one E.
right? Yeah.
Is that
Da-
the sort of
double
numbers?
So it sounds like
T
numbers.
and one E.
Yeah.
No, it's not numbers.
Like
Like a sound.
yeah. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
I have heard that from my daughter.
Yeah.
But I have
There is no meaning.
Now
for
it
that.
used to be racist. The next line used to be catch a nigger by the toe, but now it's catch a tiger by the toe, and it changed to tiger because you get t alliteration. Catch a tiger by the toe. If he hollers, hollers means
There will
screams. Let him go.
Totally.
Like, first line again. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
I think it should be the same.
This is why you should all watch, seriously, you should all watch Play School.
Should be T.
Play School will do all those nursery rhymes I talked about last week, you know, that foundational culture and these sorts of things, you know. And that one people don't refer to much, but yeah, an adult might do it for a bit of fun. Like, who's going to buy the next drink? Okay, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, you know. So, yeah, that stuff's good to have some understanding of. Okay, now, before we go on, one thing I want to say is you could think, oh, look, I don't care about spelling because I've got my iPhone, I've got, you know, auto-correction, I've got Grammarly, or, you know, I can check with Dr. Google or whatever. Yes, but I'll put it like this. If you're going to be a good photographer, which I'm not, but, you know, you can, most cameras, digital ones, they're just automatic, aren't they? You set it on auto, you go on your holiday, you can get some pretty nice shots. But if you want to be really, you know, better than that and get really good stuff, you turn off the auto, don't you? And like, say somebody, you want to take a picture of somebody and the light's behind them, then your automatic camera is going to produce just a dark face, isn't it? So you need to turn off the auto and correct the exposure, etc., and then take the picture and, you know, etc. So what we call overriding, so correcting what automatically happens is useful. So, you know, turning off the auto and doing lots of manual work on a good camera, if you know what you're doing, if you know all the rules and the principles, you'll get really nice shots. Now, it's the same with language, you know. You can have your autocorrector going for your grammar and your spelling, and you know, you'll get a reasonable sort of result. But to really know what you're doing and have full confident control and be able to do it when none of that's there, and you have to write a quick memo or something to someone, and it's just going to even help your confidence, even if you rarely come across that. But you know, I can spell that word. I don't need all this other stuff. You know, that's kind of A1 level English. I really think you need to approach it that way. You need to be able to operate the camera manually, not just always on automatic. There are many times when you need it. Certainly things like exams. I mean, a lot of exams still in Australia are handwritten. Some are not. More and more in Year 12 they're introducing the computer, but there are still many situations where you need it. And even if you just operate on the computer, let's have a look at a big problem in English. They're called these things: homophones. Phone, sound. Homo, the same. So it means words in English that sound the same, but they're different words. They're spelled differently. Most languages have these. So you could type something like I want, you're typing an email. I want to add another staff member to the project. And you type add like that. Then the computer is going to say, oh, sure, that's an English word, no worries. Yep. And it won't pick up the error. But it is an error because you should be spelling it with a double D. Right? Now, look, all. What's an all? It's like a drill that you use by hand, etc., etc. And okay, so just to give you a sense of how many there are dozens and dozens and dozens of these in the language. We're not halfway yet. Up to S, T, W, we're at the end there. Okay. It's probably most of them, probably I've missed a few. Do you see the point? You can be typing these on your phone or into Word or whatever, and even Grammarly, and it won't correct it. So you can have these errors. And some of them are, the obvious one that you all know, 2, 2 and 2, isn't it? The 3 different spellings. And lots of people get those wrong, and natives, mix those up. So be careful, your spelling corrector, your automatic spelling corrector, will not pick up homophones. It's not that smart yet. When computers get a bit smarter and they say, oh, look, in this context, it won't be add, it will be add, but we're not there yet. 10 or 20 years, we might be. So, in 10 or 20 years, you'll just have a little chip and you'll go to the doctor maybe and get it put in there, and it will be English grammar, and maybe another one for spelling, and I'll be out of a job. But not yet. All right. Let's have a look at, so be aware of that, and therefore you need to be able to do this stuff manually. And accommodation, yes, double M, correct, double C. So 2 doubles. Appearance, yes, with an A, and that's your problem, appearance. Now, here's an example. I'll just show you, reference back to A. I should have done it the other way around. Let's keep spinning this around. Roman alphabet problem, this one. Yeah, because appearance, the sound is that, isn't it? The schwa, the sound in English, the most common vowel, and the Romans didn't have a letter for it. So, we use an A, we use an E, whatever. Yeah? So that happens a lot. Calendar, that's a schwa. Right? So there's that problem again. And is it an E? Sometimes it's an E, sometimes it's an O, sometimes it's... So, is there an example? Look, conscious, schwa. Definitely, schwa. Colleague, familiar, schwa. Embarrass, schwa. Harassment, schwa. Independent, schwa. So, knowledge, schwa. So, look, often it's spelled with an E, but not always. Look, IA in this case, a single A there, an A here, A there, IOU here. That's not definite. An I there, single I. So it's all over the place, isn't it? Yeah. And this is one of the problems. So that goes back to the Roman alphabet being imposed on this language that has this most common vowel, the and they didn't have an upside down et, and you can't see it on your keyboard, can you? That's a Roman alphabet there. So just understanding that, this is why I think a little bit of history, helps. Oh, right, here's a schwa. There's nothing in the alphabet that fits it. Which letter is it? Just That's that next level of analysis. It won't necessarily give you the answer, but you'll know the nature of the problem. That's halfway there to the answer. So having those historical tools, that knowledge, this is my point. It can guide you. It can shape your thinking. It can help your guessing. Okay, believe, yeah, I-E, correct. Calendar, correct. It's got an A, not an E, because look, so often it's an E, isn't it? Probably more often than not. It's probably the most common pattern. So people impose that on this. They try to generalise the rule, and it doesn't work. That's why this is a native spelling list. Natives have these problems with these because they take some rule somewhere else in the language and try to fit it, and it doesn't work. Cemetery, not the double M. Cemetery, E. So there's the schwa again. There's the schwa, and it's not an A, it's an E. Cemetery. Colleague, yes, it's got a U in it. Colleague. Really, that stuff is silent, isn't it? It's silent. And it's an EA, that's right. It's got lots of vowels, look. L-E-A-G-U-E. You've got to have all of those. And the basic word in there is league. League, which means to join. Joining. A group of people, like a club, can be called a league, especially in sports. Cultural knowledge, the AFL, the Australian Football League. League, a group, often used for sport, but can be more than that. Political groups, especially fascists for some reason, far right, call themselves a league, the League, the Brotherhood League or something like that. The old League of Nations before the United Nations, it was the League of Nations, the interconnected group. Lots of words in English and other languages. Lig means to join. Ligament in your joining your tendons and bone, is it? Ligament.
Old
Yeah.
League, Old League of Nations or Old League of Nations?
The old League of Nations, because it's many nations coming together, a league. Because it no longer exists, I'm calling it old. The United Nations replaced it after World War
II.
II.
League of Nations then.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. So look, for this sort of thing, and it's something we'll talk about in a little while, one of the tricks is there a word within a word? That is, look at the basic units. That's code, isn't it? And then league, and you've doubled the L. But thinking of it like that might help you spell it. Because if you know how to spell league, it's co, league, co together. I'm joined together with that person in work. This is like your workmate. Committee, just double E. So you got double M, double T. And double E. Yeah, you got three, haven't you? Triplets. Not twins, triplets.
There's no problem with it.
Eh?
There's no problem with that.
No, that's the one that's correct. There's only one. I told you I was feeling cruel. There's only one. There's only one that's correct.
Double M.
Now, conscious has this
Double E.
skirt in it. And do you remember last week or the week before I talked about this skirt sound, about cutting? It's a very, very old word to cut, 7,000 years old. And we get the word like, look, think of science. I'm sure you know how to spell science. And it's got that in it, hasn't it? Skirt. And why? Because science is about analysing and we cut. And that's how we know, right? Conscious, conscience, etc., etc. Science, scissors. Why do scissors have this silent k in it? Because it's coming from this old word sk, which means to cut. Proto-Indo-European word. Schedule. Schedule. Americans say schedule. We say schedule. But you're hearing schedule more and more. But so why is there the sk in it? Because you cut up your week or your day, and you have a schedule. So that's all coming from cutting. And if you know that, so this is an example of word history. If you etymology, if you know your word history, you'll understand it. If you understand it, you remember it better. Definitely, yes. And again, look, this one has got a word. What? Look, there's your prefix. So etymology, word history is about word roots and prefixes and the building blocks, isn't it? It's the building blocks, the historical foundation. So we've got DE, which means down. And then we've got the word, quite a common word, finite. I'm sure you know that one. Something's finite, or we can say, infinite. And you probably can spell that, finite. And look at the word, it's got an I in it, hasn't it? Now, we're adding on the end, so definite. Right? We've got the word finite, and we just add ly. So we've got an ly, finite, and D, and all of that, and you just put it all together. Now, they don't always work that regularly. Sometimes they change when you put them together, don't they? But that one's quite nice. It's all regular. It all just fits together, and you keep everything. D finitely. Think of it like that, and you'll get it right. Yeah. So this is one of the strategies, is word history. And by that I include knowing your prefixes, your suffixes, and your roots, the central bit. And if you know those things, you can click the bits together. It's a bit like Lego. You can join it up. Now, you've got to be careful because it changes over many years, and sometimes, there are some alterations. But it's going to help you. It's going to be a good guide. Not for every word. My point is, this toolbox of 5 strategies, it's tools. You don't use all 5 tools to fix the door handle, do you? You use the screwdriver and the pliers, and you leave the hammer in the bag, whatever. So you'll use some tools some of the time. Don't use just one tool for spelling, like just writing it out over and over, which is very common. It's not that effective. Use different tools for different words and different problems. Okay, so let's put these up. We've got one is word history. Knowing word history, knowing the prefixes, roots, suffixes, the building blocks. It can help you with grammar too, Ation, meant, ly. These create adverbs or nouns, don't they? Knowing those endings is going to help. It's going to help you with reading, guessing words. If you know DE means down, which down is bad, down is reversing, down is, up is building and good and progress, isn't it? Down is reversal, defeat, negative. You know those things. So the roots and the metaphors, just one example from that, you see that in a word, it's going to help you guess. I use it all the time when I'm reading French, because French has a lot of these Latinate things. And see a word I don't know, break it up, and it helps a lot. Heaps. So learn these things. Learn the building blocks. They'll help you with spelling, they'll help you with guessing words, they'll help you with grammar. Okay. Up here, embarrass, yes, double R, double S, correct. Familiar, yes, IA is the problem, that's correct. Harassment, double R, double S, correct. Lots of people leave off that one, or leave off that one. Independent, yes, look, our other problem, the schwa again, this is need. One of the problems with this is, this particular word, if your Centrelink or tax person writes to you, they may say, oh, you say you have 3 dependents in your house. So a dependent, like legally is a person who depends on you for money or survival. You know, like your kids or someone you're caring for. That's dependent with an A. So the word exists, not as common as independent, this one. But it is there, and so people see that and then not sure, what do I do? And it's a schwa, that's the problem. Knowledge has this, yeah, because here's another one. I didn't put it up, I don't think. No. And it's very similar. Privilege. Right? And look at that. It doesn't have the D. But knowledge does. And that sounds the same, doesn't it? Privilege, knowledge, one's got a GE, one's got a DGE. Ah. So, that's G. So see what I mean by there's only a bit of a word, that's the problem. Most of the words you probably know how to spell, that's the problem. Or some people do this. Put the D, because they know knowledge has it. That one sounds the same, but it shouldn't be there. So that's the problem area.
Knowledge is age, the end of the, it's like the end of the knowledge. It's not the meaning of knowledge. Like if you separate the word.
You mean if we break up the word?
Age and know.
Oh, okay. All right, it's got an L in there. Yeah, look, that. All right, let's do it now. That's a nice way. It's not the true history of the word, but it doesn't matter. This is, you're making up a little story there, Lewis, that's going to help you remember. And it's a nice one. I like that. So let's do it. It's a very good example. So, create a story to remember. Now, yeah, so what you have to do is you have to, one, find the problem area, which you've done. Two, is there a word within a word? Is there a word within that word, in the problem area? And you've done exactly that, Lewis. You said, oh, look, part of that word and the problem bit has got the word edge in it, and you know how to spell that, and that's got a D. So say your example again, your sentence about it.
The edge of the knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you get to the edge of knowledge, don't you? And you know, the science, for example, is advancing in engineering, electrical engineering, and the PhD people are creating that next edge. But yeah, knowledge has an edge. That's a nice one. So next time you write knowledge, who do you know who's doing a PhD? Someone in this room. Dr. Marty. Okay. So when you're writing knowledge, what's good with a story? Make it real. By real, I mean people, places. So just to embarrass Marty completely, from now on, we're going to think of Dr. Marty working hard at his desk, writing his PhD, pushing the edge of knowledge, right? So every time you write that word knowledge, you won't even have to think about it. You'll see Marty sitting there doing his work, 3 a.m. in the morning. You'll see that in your mind, right? And you think, why is that? Oh, edge of knowledge. Do you see? So what you have to do is you have to, by making a story, yeah, so we create a, sorry, missing a bit there. So from that, you create a story. See how we're creating a story from this edge of knowledge thing, and we're putting real people in it and real place. And so what you're doing, you create a visual. Now, the human mind remembers visual things so much better than it remembers language. And one of the reasons is we're an animal, and animals have visual memory and have had it for hundreds of millions of years. Insects have it. Insects can, find locations again pretty much immediately. They have maps. Think of bees, for example. They can go back to that same tree or whatever, can't they? Elephants can, find water holes. Parrots can put seeds in snow. 20,000. There's just some parrot in California, can put 20,000 seeds in different places, come back in winter and find them, dig them in the snow. So, point is, spatial memory of place is really strong, and just visual memory generally, but spatial memory of place is really strong. It's in our DNA, right? If we've got this strong talent, let's use it, We've all got that talent and we don't use it enough. If you do memorization workshops and so on, number one technique is spatial memory, and they'll teach you tricks with spatial memory. Right? So that's why I've got place in there. You've got to think of a place and make it a real place that you know and put the story in that place, right? If you do that and you do it well, when you're writing your word, it will just come up. You won't have to think, I had a story about that. It will probably just come up in your brain like months later. So there's one. There's an example of create a story around the problem, the problem area. So as we go, we'll use this strategy. Liaise. Now, the problem with liaise is, I wrote French invasion. Number 3, I think it was. That's one of these French problems. The French have got their own spelling. It's reasonably regular, but lots of silent letters in French, but it's a regular pattern. They bring that to English. Oh my God, all gets mixed up. Here's an example. Liaise means you're in a company or an organisation and you connect with somebody outside that organisation and you cooperate with them on some sort of project. That's liaising. Or, for example, you're looking for a job and you network. That networking is kind of like liaising. Liaise is to connect. Remember that word because we also use it in pronunciation. When one word connects with another word, that's liaison. Like a piece of cake that's there is the piece of, I say the piece of cake. That's liaison, linkage. I call it linkage. Other people call it liaison. That happens a lot. Previous lessons we've covered that. So liaison is linking. Now, the tricky spelling is this. Right? It's not a double I. There are 2 I's. But you don't. Liaise. It looks like that. But we don't say it. So how are you going to remember that one? Well, I think yesterday in the other class, I was fooling around with it, and I think I made one that I will certainly remember. See these 2 eyes? Well, they're like little people, aren't they? Yeah, there's the head, there's the body, and there's the head. Yeah. And those 2 people, they're shaking hands. Yep, let's work together. Right? And, well, there's an A in between. You could play around with that. A. What's A? A is an apple pie. All right? Because they're getting together, having coffee, and there's an apple pie there. Right? Down at the Bang Bang Cafe in Hindley Street. I'm putting it in a particular place. Think of a cafe you know. Right? Everyone got a cafe they know? Think of these people in that cafe. Don't have it just in the clouds. Right. Think of a person in your workplace or that you study with or someone you know. And think of another person you know who they might work with or liaise with. Real people. Everyone got at least one real person in there? Okay, put them in that cafe. They're shaking hands over a cup of coffee and an apple pie. They're liaising. Now, that's about 30 seconds, isn't it, of imaginative work. I bet in 9 months' time, if you have to write the word liaise, you won't think, oh yeah, it's got 2 eyes. You'll see this picture of that friend in that cafe, yeah, apple pie and coffee, and you think, why? Why am I seeing that? Ah, that's right. They represent these 2 people, the 2 eyes in liaison. You see how it works? We're using visual memory and we're using spatial memory, aren't we? We're using places you know and creating little stories. And make it silly and make it funny and make it weird and strange, because that stuff we remember. If we see a weird person on the street, we remember that person, we don't remember the hundreds of others who go past. So make it weird, let your imagination go, play with it, make it really playful and ridiculous, and you're more likely to remember that. Okay?
Liaison is same, just got a L-I-A-I.
Yes, true, good point. So if we do the noun, just drop the E. Yeah, you've still got this problem area, that still has the 2 eyes. Okay, moving on. Necessary. Yeah, this is the schwa and it's spelled here with an A. So, trick number 3, spelling, I call it spelling pronunciation. I haven't seen any of this sort of, the other ones you'll see on websites. This is just something that kind of happened to me as a kid. I just, words like that one, I get wrong all the time, put an E. So what I started to do was, as I write it out, I write necessary, and I say that really strongly in my head, or you could even say it out loud. Yep. You could say ness or neck. If it's not a problem, just say it like the word is. Necessary. And arry, and write arry. That one is quite good for the schwa problem. When you've got the schwa, you say arry, or you say independent. So sometimes that will work for you. It depends who you are, and are you more auditory? If you're an auditory sort of person who likes sound and saying things to yourself, you've got a good auditory memory, that may work. Some people are stronger with visual memory, so this one will work, Depends on the person, depends on the word. Do you get this, the point of this? Let's do another one. Here, look. When I write, how would you write this one out, saying the spelling pronunciation? Familiar. Familiar. Right? Say it like that. Familiar. And as you write familiar, and you'll capture that I. But when you're out with your friend and you say, oh, he looked familiar, don't do that.
It's happened, unfortunately.
Yes, it can. It can. You've got to be careful. Don't transfer it. It's not real pronunciation. That's why I call it spelling pronunciation. It's its own little universe inside your head. Keep it there. It's a private pronunciation that will help you with certain spelling. You see the point? Familiar. Where's another one? Now, you can't do it with double letters. It's not going to help you with these. Because a is a isn't it? And whether it's double or you can't. So do you see my point about different tools help you with different problems? This will not help you with double letters. What will help you with double letters is this one. Create a story. Let's do it with this one. The problem is not that, it's usually this. So, what in our culture has a big It's golden colours and it's huge, and when you're driving along you see it, oh yeah, it's a logo. Which company uses McDonald's, right. Now I hate to promote them, right? But there's 2 big McDonald's aren't there?
Maybe we can just imagine 2 double beds.
Or M&M.
2 double
M&Ms.
bed. Bed.
E-D.
Bed. Why? Okay. Why a double bed though? How's it going to remind?
Accommodation. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. If that helps, yeah. Whatever. Okay. So 2 double beds. Yeah. So you've got a room in a hotel, and you're thinking 2 double beds. Can you think of a hotel?
Yeah.
Particular room? Right. Yeah, it's got a double. A double. Yeah. So, okay, Merida, that's a good one. Mine was this, and I think of opening the window. I can think of a particular hotel in Russia, in St. Petersburg, you know, because we used to go to the window to look at the White Knights, you know. So I'm thinking there, open the window, there's McDonald's, you know, coming in, terrible, pull the thing down again, you know. So just imagine that. Imagine it in a real hotel somewhere you've stayed. Accommodation. Somebody else suggested, who is it who organises accommodation in the family? Usually it's mum, isn't it? Mum does all the organising. So you could think of 2 mums outside their accommodation in the corridor talking to each other. And they're saying, oh, God, this was expensive, wasn't it? So hard to book and blah, blah, blah. You know, 2 mums do it. Whatever works for you. Double beds, McDonald's or mums. Make up your story. But notice it's about the problem letters, isn't it? See how it works? That is probably one of your best and strongest. Okay, we'll move quickly. Noticeable. So you write notice, and then you've got able on the end. So really, it's quite simple. This one, it's notice, and then your suffix, isn't it? How are you going to remember that?
Don't touch it, that's it. Notice and then able.
Yeah, right? So yeah, you could say it's about rules, isn't it? Okay, so 4 are just spelling rules. And that's kind of just basic, you know, patterns. But there are other ones that do drop the E and put the A on there. So you've got EA. You could say noticeable. 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 This one.
That's
Noticeable. Hey?
Trust me, that's ruined the pronunciation.
It may, Marty. You have to be careful.
I was in problem.
You have to have strong borders, right? Strong border force protection. Yeah. Noticeable. That would be that strategy. You could use your rule strategy. If you wanted to, you could invent some creative story about that. Not sure what you'd do. It looks like eat. Something about eating.
When we mix them, when we just leave them, this is a problem. Sometimes
that's
the
right.
word like notice plus able.
Yeah, and
You
others
just
you
keep
don't.
it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And that's right. And so 80% regular, it's the 20%, isn't it? And these are all part of that 20% there. They break the rule. Yeah. Yeah. Or usually, well, in this case, it sort of doesn't break the pattern, but so many others do. So in a way, that's in the 80%. Occurrence, right. Let's tackle this one. Double R.
So what was the pronunciation?
Occurrence. Yeah.
I always pronounce that accurance of
Oh, not ac. That's sounding a bit, it's sounding a bit like accuracy. Schwa, a car. Now that's an and the stress is there. Occurrence. Occurrence. But the verb, occur. Occur. Yeah. Occur. So then it changes. Occur. Occurrence. Just get out some charts. New people. Phonemic charts. Tatiana, you have one. What hell? I think. Does everyone else have one of those? I've just run out of them. You got one? Good. Everybody else get one? Merida, do you get one of those? Phonemic? No. Okay. So be careful of this because this isn't English letters for spelling, isn't it? So occur, this one for the verb. So like that, and on the end, like occurred, double R. Occurred, occurring. Always double R for any extra endings for this. So occurrence, the noun, even though its pronunciation is different, still double R. Double R, double R, double R. There is a pattern. But, so that's kind of a rules one. There is a regular pattern there. But we could use this one. It's good for double letters. Remember I said this is good for double letters? Now, in there, look, a word within a word, right? Is there a word within a word that can help us make up a little story? Currency, there is. And it's all, we just don't have the Y. But currency, I bet you know how to spell that. That's got a double R. Most people have got that under control. So use something that's under control to help you with something that's not. Okay, currency and an occurrence. So we need to combine these two things, don't we? We need to have a story that combines the word within the word with the whole word. So we say in English, a strange occurrence. Something that's occurred that's different. That's a strong collocation. A strange occurrence. So I'm going to make up a strange occurrence, but it's going to involve the word currency. So I think this morning it was raining, wasn't it? It was wet, yeah. So now, if you, in a little while we'll have a break, go down in the break and have a look in Hindley Street. It's raining, but it's not raining water. Guys, it's raining currency. Right? There's money coming down. There's hundreds and 50s and even $2 coins, but no one worries about that. Everyone's going for the $100 bills, right? There's crowds out there on Hindley Street. If you listen, you can hear them, right? They're all shouting and fighting and punching each other, right? Right? There's all this currency coming down. It's a strange occurrence, right? Can you see it? You can see it, can't you? Because you know this street really well. I can see it in this bit of the street. It's raining money, right? It's a strange occurrence. So next time, and it might be a while, 2 months, 3 months, 10 months' time, you write the word occurrence, you'll see money coming down in Hindley Street. Right? Why? Oh, currency. I know how to spell currency. Double R. See how it works? Yeah. Okay. We'll push on. Persistent, yes. This one I would do this spelling pronunciation. Persistent. Well, look, there's a word within a word, if you like. Look, a tent. A tent. And you can think of it, it's pretty common, isn't it? You try to put up the tent, the wind comes. You try to put up the tent, the wind blows the other way. You put up the tent, the dog pulls the peg out, and every time. But what do? You're persistent. You keep going with the tent. Yeah? So, you could use your spelling pronunciation. You could use create a story there. All right. Next one's piece of cake. All right. This one very much is rules. The rule is this. Classic spelling rule. I before E, except after C. I before E, except after C. I before E, except after C. Little kids learn this first year at school. I before E, except after C. Dun, da, dun, da, 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 da. It's got that rhythm. Now, this only works. So it is only for these. When you have your E sound, right? E, it's only for the words that have an E sound. It won't work for other words with IE. So here it is, piece of cake, P, E, it's got an E, so I before E. It's got a C, but it says except after C. This is before it. So I before E. That's correct. And there are lots of those. All right, so there are some little rules that can help you. That rule was invented because there are so many that are different in English, and natives need that rule to help them. What we can do is jump. While we're on this, we will jump straight to this one. Look, receive. Does that fit with the rhyme? Okay, thanks. I before E except after C. Does it fit our little rule here? I before E except after C. Where's the C? Here. Let's look after it.
Yes.
Except after C, yeah. So after C, it's the other way around. So that little rule is capturing that problem, isn't it? Can you see how it is? It's the exception which is stated in the little rule, in the little rhyme. So, rules can help with these two. Publicly, yeah, a lot of these things have ALY, but this one doesn't. It's just public and then LY. Publicly, and that's one I often have to stop and think about. Publicly.
Got the A?
No A.
No A, no double L.
No double L. Just LY. How are we going to remember that one?
I think it's don't touch it.
Don't touch it. I like this. Don't touch.
Publicly.
Well, that's right. You can say to yourself, it's just very regular, actually, isn't it? Public and lead. All right. Don't touch. All right. Another rule. Don't touch.
Public and then lead and Y. Make it
Yeah.
No E, no L, no double L, no E.
Just see. Okay. I will put as our last rule, number 5. This is the old kind of just memorising it. Look at the word. Say it publicly. Cover it. Write it. Check it. Oh, bugger, I got it wrong. Right? Do it again. Have a careful look at it. So cover it. So publicly, look, say, publicly, cover, write it, check. Oh, bugger, still got it wrong. Double L. Look, carefully look at the area, the problem area, cover, say, publicly, cover, write, check. Yay. All right.
Primary school.
Absolutely. Look, say, cover, write, check. You know. Now that is what we call just memorization and doing it lots of times, and that is called rote learning. Rote. Just repetition. It's how we learn religious stuff, and Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Especially when you are scared.
Yeah, true. When the machine guns are firing, it's just true. So it comes back very easily. But the efficiency of rote learning is not that high. You have to do a lot of it. Now, English culture, modern English culture, is not very good at rote learning. Kids don't do a lot. I think traditional learning, people do it a lot more. Obviously, traditional religious learning, you do a lot, don't you? You learn the whole Quran or whole chapters of the Bible or poetry or whatever. And unfortunately, a lot of that skill's been lost. I find that a lot of cultures that you come from, depending on the culture, has a lot stronger tradition, and you've done quite a lot of that, and you're quite skilled at it. Great, use it, That's where it may help. But But I would suggest you do explore these other things because they're not so much word, just repetition. They involve creativity or analysis, etc. And that will tend to increase your efficiency. Or some combination of the two. You know, you can certainly use that and do the other stuff as well. I would augment or improve your efficiency by adding to this one and playing around with these. Okay, referred, you've got to do something to remember your dull resistance. This one, for me, I use this one, spelling pronunciation. Resistance. Another one you could easily do, look, stance, a stance. Stand, right? I'm resisting. Somebody's, trying to get through the door and no, you're not getting through. I'm resisting it by standing there. Makes an easy story. Separate. This was always terrible for me. I never got it right because here's the other word. Desperate. And look, that's got the E and this one's got the A. That is correct. How the hell do you remember that? This bothered me right into adulthood. And the only way I fixed it was I created a story. And for separate, I said to myself, her parents are separated. Right? Parents, look, see in parents, we know how to spell that. It's got AR. AR. And I think of a particular person, a young woman, and I know her and her parents are separated. So as soon as I start to write that word, I think of Natalie, this young woman, because her parents are separated. Why do I think of her? Oh, yes. Parents, PAR. This one, desperate. She drove desperately at 100 kph. Right? Desperately. And look, sorry, I better write that in full. See, this P is per, isn't it? Per hour. You know how to spell that. So I think of her, I know where she's driving. She's driving down Donald Bradman Avenue and she's driving to the airport. Very strong spatial image there. And as soon as I write desperate, I think of this woman driving very fast at 100 kilometres per hour. So I know it's got per in desperate. See the point? And again, it's a particular person who I know who's doing that. Virginia. So put real people in there and make them real places that you know, and the memory will be much stronger. All right, tendency, yeah, it's dense, not dance. So you can use that one, tendency. Truly, yeah, just no E there. So you drop your E. And weird, W-E-I. Now, weird, think of this rule, but look, that's for the E sound. This word is not weed, that would be that. This is weird. It's got a diphthong in there. It's a diphthong. Huh? It's this diphthong here, isn't it? Clear. Clear. It's not this. It's not this. It's this. So, the rule does not apply. The rule does not apply. And we got ER. Now, I'm a bit over time for the break, but very quickly, this one, word history. Because if we go to our word history page, and we know what it is, Etim Online, yeah, and we put in weird, so Etim Online, use it, so word history, Etim Online is your word history page, and we put in weird. Let's have a look at it. blah, blah, blah. It means, if we read it, to turn. Very old Proto-Indo-European, to turn, to wind. From the root were, to turn or bend. Let's click on this. And I'll just go to the second one. Look at all the words it makes in English. It's quite a fascinating list. Here is weird, www. Weird. Turned or bent. So in English, and I bet it's similar in your language, if someone's straight, they follow the rules, they're very conventional, they're not very creative, straight, you know, they obey. Someone's weird, they're a bit different, strange. They're not straight, they're twisted. And we also say if someone's twisted mentally, they're a bit crazy, perverted. So look, the w and the v in the human mouth, w made by the lips, isn't it? Put a bit of tooth in there, v, w, v. Many languages mix these up. So that's why we've got a mix of, look, vert, etc., vert and w. That's a pattern. So words that are ver are about turning, and same with a lot of were words. So let's have a look, because it's interesting. Divert. Invert. Turn upside down. So if you invert a cup, you turn it upside down. Would, this inward. So where are you going? I'm going inward, turning outward. Right? In fact, look what I'm doing with my hand. My wrist is turning. How do we spell wrist? Right? And why? So, wrist. When I say wrist, there's no W there, is there? Why is there the W? Well, it's coming from this. And we must have said in the past, wrist, but it's, you know, over time it dropped away. So, understanding this whole family, very important family, and their connections, is going to help you understand silent letters. Remember scissors, skizzers, same story, right? Silent letters are little fossils from ancient language. This Proto-Indo-European, spoken in like Ukraine, Turkish area, moved westwards, created most European languages, and Persian and Hindi, right? So, yeah, knowing that, look, it's quite beautiful and fun, I find, to have a look. Look what's in here. Worm. Yeah, exactly. And look at this beautiful one. Worry. What happens when you're worried? What happens to your body, your guts?
You got idiom here.
It turns, doesn't it? Yeah. Right?
Washing machine.
Yeah, washing machine, that's nice. Has it got dryer as well? Wrench. A big like spanner that turns something. Or you wrench something. Yeah? All these words. Vortex is nice. Like a whirlpool. Turning. Really beautiful. Versatile. You can turn to anything, and you can do a versatile musician. They can play trumpet, piano, cello, double bass, whatever. They're versatile. They can turn. Yeah. The verge, the edge, the verge of the table where it turns down. Yeah, it's just lovely. Oh yeah, vermicelli. You know, the pasta, the noodles, because they're like worms, aren't they? Basically, verm in Italian, vermi must mean worm. So you've got a plate of worms, vermicelli.
Fancy.
Yeah, yeah, fancy word. Yeah, look, it's really fun to play. Anniversary, yeah, turning. Once a year it turns, isn't it? Anniversary. Have they got verses? Yeah. Two teams. One team turned against the other. and playing soccer. Like versus, isn't it? Bernie Sanders versus, who is it? Bloomberg or Biden versus. Yeah, so getting into word history can really, look, there are lots of words to learn in English. You can, I think of it like a crowd of people. There's 5,000, there's 10,000 people. You'd like another 10,000 words, right? So you're standing on Parliament House steps looking out at the demonstration. There's 10,000 people there, right? Do you want to start learning every single individual name and not connect them with anything? Or would you like to learn the names and look at the banner they're holding up? Oh, there's the Climate Action Group. There's the Noarlunga Climate Action Group, you know, and that's Sally and Phil and Harry, and you know, and you'll remember they belong to that group. And here's the socialists. They're carrying their red flag, you know, and there's Ruth and John and Harry, another Harry and Steve, and you know, and they belong to that group. You'll remember names much better, won't you? And or families. Think of the people you know, and we tend to group them. Oh, they're work people, they're family, they're sports people, and you remember them because they're in this group. And the group helps you to structure it and remember it. Hundreds or thousands of people. Names are like people. Put them in families. Put them in groups, and the connections between the groups, and you'll remember it so much better. And it's going to help you, isn't it, with spelling. Even, you know, these silent letters. Oh, this is a nice one. Look, wrinkle. Your skin turns, and that's why there's the W there. Wriggle. Wrestle. You know, all have this W. Wreath. The wreath, the flowers that you put on the grave. A wreath, because it's a circle. Anyway, beautiful, I find. It's a testimony to human creativity, isn't it? Hundreds or thousands of years of human creativity and poetic metaphor. It's just amazing. And we can play around with it. And it helps us. Look at that one. Oh, that's a nice one. Vertebra. Because it's curved. Some people more than others. It's turned. It's like an S shape. All right. So, look, there are the spelling strategies. That hopefully these will help you. They will help us with other stuff as well. They'll help you with word building and you know, knowledge of word structure. Yeah, so I don't just look, say, cover art check, that's useful, but play around with these more creative and analytic elements, and be ready to just use one tool for one word and another tool for another word, and you need all those 5 tools. Don't just use one. Okay? That's it. Have fun spelling, guys. Yeah, play around.
We have to add the Marty rules. Don't touch.
Don't touch. We have Marty's rule, don't touch. Number 6. I like it. Good-o. All right. 10 minutes break and we'll get into something else.